Alright, hi there, I am Andra, and it's my honor to introduce you to one of the first and maybe also one of the most important theories we've developed collectively in our Discord server. So, let me tell you about RGB theory. Don't worry, I know the name sounds stupid. It was actually a funny headcanon for me to imagine Kagan stumbling across our theory and thinking, why the heck are they theorizing about gaming setups? But don't worry, it will make sense soon. So, let's begin with the entrance to the Meadow that we see the player of the People Still Live Here video game enter through. A long, modern hallway under a W2, the signature hut of a tribe of Native Americans who lived in Hockomock's swamp once, the Wampanoag. The hallway seems out of place, not just because it's an obvious clash in the style of architecture. The whole hallway is lit in a uniform blue light. Therefore, we will call it the Blue Door from now on. But that raises the question, if there's a blue door, are there other doors with other colors as well? That is one of the main points of RGB theory, because there are. The evidence lies in the description of Sunshine. Quote, previously unimpacted individual is granted natural passage to Meadow Outland Steps, uncertain locality, via derelict structure in Northern California, USA. This tells us that there's at least one other entrance to the Meadow. But why do the doors relate to certain colors, and why red, green and blue in particular? The reason why we believe that is because of noticeable RGB symbolism in the series overall. One of the most prominent ones might be the strange object in the small hut on day 1 of the video game, where we find a hint on how to get to the data center. Keep that hut in mind, as it will be more important later on. The object on the wall seems to be connected to something by a cable, and while I personally thought at first it may be a switch of some kind, some of my fellow Meadow enthusiasts found a striking difference between that object and a singular pixel, the basic unit built into computers responsible for showing colors via additive color mixing, of the basic colors red, green and blue in different percentages. Another noticeable RGB reference are the bandstands on day 2, the roofs of which are also prominently colored red, green and blue. Admittedly, that alone does not seem like enough evidence to assume a red and a green door exist and lead to the Meadow. But that changes when we take another look at the hut. I told you it would get important again. Let's take a closer look into the hut, shall we? Alright, let's see what we got. A head rack, an empty shelf, a small unopenable chest, some bookshelves and a table with overhead. Nothing particularly special. But hold on, there are 3 paintings in the room. The first one to our right is The Blind Leading the Blind by Peter Bruegel, a Dutch painter who lived during the Renaissance. The one directly above the desk is more interesting. Its name is Swiss Alpine Shepherd Boy, made by an artist named Gertrude Robinson. A fellow theorist also found out that there's an even older version of that painting to be found, an imprint made by the German artist Georg Saal. The shepherd boy is a common icon for a lot of European countries, especially those with a close connection to the Alps: Switzerland, southern Germany, Austria and northern Italy. Notably, the origin of the Laffan head, which we see in Saywell and whose yodel is the leitmotif for the series, lies in Tyrol, a part of Austria. And what do we see directly next to the shepherd boy painting? Another painting showing a staircase that leads up to a green door. That leads us to believe that the green door, wherever it may be, is the second entrance to the Meadow, leading to Tyrol. The importance of Tyrol will also be brought up again soon. Just to get that out of the way, the staircase and door shown in the painting have most likely nothing to do with the old zoo at all. When the series started, there were some speculations it was tied to the oldest view, as some people stated that the staircase was supposed to be the same as in Beneath the Earth and the Rolling Giant. Since then, it has become apparent that People Still Live Here is its own series, with no obvious references to the oldest view. Thus, we don't believe there to be a connection. So, we know now of two doors and where they lead. The suspected green door leads presumably to Tyrol, whereas the confirmed blue door leads to Hockomock Swamp. So if the name of the theory is RGB theory, where's the red door? And is there even evidence for it? We believe there is. Remember, we know of a confirmed entrance to Northern California, but do we have any evidence to say for sure it is red? Not necessarily, but what we do have is a post from Kane on Instagram, which he shared on the 24th of February. There we can see someone standing in a red room covered in graffiti, which looks pretty much like a derelict structure, as it was mentioned in the description of Sunshine. The image was posted at a time where the first videos of the series were just being released, and while we cannot say for sure if the post has any relation to people still live here, it is a possibility, especially when we look at the next step. If we assume the three doors we discussed right now exist, what is the meaning of it all? Why are the colors important, and why are there three doors in particular? Let's take a look at the places where those doors are supposed to lead. First, we have Hockomock Swamp, a dense swampy area that was used as a hideout and fortress by the Native American tribe of the Wampanoag during King Philip's War, a conflict between the indigenous tribes of that area and English settlers in the 17th century. Notably, there is a documentary called We Still Live Here about the return and preservation of the Wampanoag's language. Then we have Northern California. According to fellow Meadow enthusiasts from the US, this area is mostly known as a very modern and progressive area. The Silicon Valley, a focal point of technological advancement and home to many important companies, lies in that area. If we look at the Instagram post again, we see a lot of graffiti painted all over the red room. Modern graffiti seems to tie into this very well. So what about Tyrol then? As a German, Tyrol is a place I have visited before. Specifically, I was in southern Tyrol, which belongs to Italy on paper, but is culturally way closer to Austria. From my experiences, Tyrol and a lot of cultures native to the Alps share a common mentality, being progressive and open to modernization, especially in technology, while also valuing their tradition and preserving it. And all of this leads us to the underlying main theme of the series: modernity versus tradition and how you adapt to it. Hockomock Swamp and the Wampanoag represent staying true to tradition. Northern California stands for modernization and advancements. Tyrol is the combination of both, embracing modernity while staying true to your origins. This is very similar to the three items the player has to collect on each day of the video game. They follow a specific pattern on both days: wampum, watch, compressor, feather, sundial, bowling ball. First, something related to Native Americans, so something traditional. Then, a device to track time, maybe a symbol of time passing. And finally, a modern item. So, there you have it. RGB theory claims that there are three entrances to the meadow, each symbolized by a color and representative of a certain way to embrace the flow of time. Of course, this theory is not suitable to explain the series as a whole, but we are certain that it comes pretty close to one of the main underlying themes of the series. Feel free to give us your opinion on all of this. I am Andra, and thank you so much for listening.